Kakalosh Boker Tov. We're continuing on Daf Masechet Amud Aleph 38a1. So if you remember, we were speaking about on 37b. We were talking about on the bottom. We said Amar Avasi Isa Shel Maaser Sheni. When we're talking about a dough of Maaser Sheni, according to Shitat Rabbi Meir, is Petura Min HaChala. It's going to be exempt from the Chala. But according to the Chachamim, it's Chayev b'Chala. Why? Because we said that the machloket was, is Maaser Sheni considered Mamon Gavo or not? So if you're going to tell me it belongs to Hashem, so that's why it's going to be patur from Chala. You don't have to do Afrashat Chala on it. But if you're going to tell me that according to Chachamim, it's Mamon Idiot, it's money that belongs to us, so therefore it's going to be Chayev b'Chala. Matzav Maaser Sheni, according to the Rabbi Meir, since it belongs to Hashem, a person is not going to be Tzedek Chovah on Pesach, and according to Chachamim, he is going to be Tzedek Chovah on Pesach. Etrog of a Maaser Sheni, okay, so therefore, if it's going to be now an etrog of Maaser Sheni, according to Rabbi Meir that it belongs to Hashem, we're not going to be Tzedek Chovah on Sukkot. According to Chachamim, we are. Okay, so this is where we left off yesterday. So we're on Masechet Amud Aleph on the top. Okay, a few lines down. Mat Kifla, right, 2, 4, 6 lines down. Mat Kifla of Papa. Rav Papa comes and he asks the following question. Bishma Isa, it's good, if you're going to tell me we're talking about an Isa of Maaser Sheni, that according to Rabbi Meir, it's not Chayav in Chala. Why? Tichtiv, it says, Arisotechem, Mishelachem. When do you have to take off Chala? When it's yours. Arisotechem, Mishelachem. It has to belong to you. If it belongs to you, so then you're going to have to take off the Chala. Etrog nami, Tichtiv, Ulkachtem lachem. Yeah, lachem. Mishelachem, yeah, what does that mean also by an etrog? It has to be yours. If it's not your etrog, it's not going to, also, it's not going to be anything. Ela matzah miketiv matzotchem. But what? On matzah, it's written matzatchem, it has to be your matzah? What does that mean? Why is it that by matzah, it has to be yours? Since when does it have to be yours? So Amar Rava says, Vitema Rav Yema B'Shlamya, and somebody says Rav Yema B'Shlamya. Atya, we come and we say, it's a gzera shava. Lechem, lechem. What does it mean? Bread, bread, lechem, lechem. Ketiv hacha, it's written by matzah, lechem oni. Uchtiv hatam, and it's written over there, v'aya be'acholchem milechem haaretz. Yeah, that when you're going to eat the matzah from chala. So therefore, we're learning matzah from chala. Yeah, we're learning matzah from chala. Just like man lahalan, just like by chala, there's no mitzvah unless it's going to be yours. So too here by matzah, it has to be yours, right? Which means, right, and according to Maaser Sheni, so therefore, since according to Rabbi Meir, it's Ma'un Gavoa, you're not going to Tzedek Chovah. It makes sense. Yeah, so we're learning matzah from lechemon, from matzah from the chala, which means just like chala, it's arisotechem, your bread, and it's written also bread by matzah, lechemoni, lechem, they learn from the chala, just like chala has to be your bread to take off afrashat chala, so to matzah has to be your matzah in order to be tzochovah on Pesach. So says the Gemara, Lema Mesayele, why don't we just say that this is actually going to be a proof to what? Isa shel Maaser Sheni. Imagine a case now of Isa, of dough of Maaser Sheni. Petura min chala, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. He says it's going to be patur from chala. Chachamim say, chayevet, it's going to be obligated in chala. Okay, so this is exactly like Ravasi. So says the Gemara, Lema Mesayeh, meaning like this. This was Ravasi. Ravasi was the one that said, Amar Ravasi, this was on the bottom of Lamed Zayin Mubet. Amar Ravasi said, Isa shel Maaser Sheni, according to Rabbi Meir is patur, and according to Chachamim is chayav. So says the Gemara, Lema Mesayeh, what do you mean Lema Mesayeh? Lema Mesayeh, it's the exact same Braita. You could bring me a proof if it's almost like what I'm saying. But if it's exactly what I'm saying, there's no Lema Mesayeh, there's no proof. When you want to come in, I'm going to bring you a proof. Imagine right now, right, you come and you tell me, well, Rabbi, do you know that I think that this is what's going to happen with A, B, and C? And then I come and I tell you, yeah, I have a proof to you, A, B, and C. Well, it's the exact same thing. What do you mean? It's not a proof. It's a hainu hach. It's the exact same thing that I just told you. So says the Gemara, no. Hachi kamar. This is what it means to say. Leima min miflige beisa, from the fact that they're going to be the palged, since they're arguing by the dough. Also here they're going to be arguing, which means, right, just like they're going to be arguing to do with the chiyuv of chala by Maaser Sheni, so too they're going to be arguing on everything else, on the matzah, etrog, and everything else. So he says, Odilmar maybe, Shanehata, maybe by the chala it's different. maybe it's written twice, arisotechem, yours. So therefore, that's why if it's not 100% yours, right, it's not the same thing. By an etrog, it's written once, lachem. Or by everything, it's only once. So therefore, I would say, okay, fine. So maybe by an etrog of Maaser Sheni, you are going to be Yisrael Chova, even according to Rambam. So therefore, that's why he's coming and telling you, no, that's why it's Lema Mesayele, that you wanted to compare it to all the two. So again, one more time, Maaser Sheni. What is Maaser Sheni? What is Maaser Sheni? Maaser Ani was years 3 and 6. Maaser Sheni was 1, 2, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 4, 5. So the second 10% that you're taking off, that's why we say, by the way, the concept of Maaser is 20%. Right? Why? Because the first 10% went to the Levi. The second 10% either went to the Aniyim or went to that you had to eat it in Yerushalayim. You understand? That's why there's a concept, right?
Then it's 10 of the rest.
Yes, that's usually it's true. Here the Chomesh is on the original. The 20% is on the original, 100%. Okay? But that's only when you have the Avtacha, according to a lot of Shitot. Remember, according to the Gaon Mivilna, you only become rich when you take off 20%. Baruch Hashem. Huh?
It's either or.
I have it here. Yeah, whenever you want, I have the credit card. They're telling me when am I going to collect the 20%. Whenever they want, I have it here. I have it on the phone. Yeah, 20% to become rich. Yeah, that's the haftacha. It's a gaon.
Even when you watch YouTube, there's a little commercial.
Ah, exactly, the little commercial. Fine. Yeah. You have to know how to do it though. Here you have to know you're putting it in. Yeah. So again, says the Gemara as follows. Says the Gemara, right? What is the lema mesayale? We have Maaser Sheni. Remember, the Maaser Sheni was the second 10% that you're going to eat in Yerushalayim. Now, what happens is there's a machloket. Does this money belong to you or does it belong to Hashem? Okay. So Rabbi Meir comes and he says it's mamon gavoa, belongs to Hashem. According to Chachamim, it belongs to you, right? The truth is, it could be elu velu divrei lokrim chaim, because even if it does belong to you, it's still ki'ilu, not yours, because you have to give it away. But that's the same concept. But what's happening here, though, is that right now, right, the question is, can you be yotzei chovah with certain mitzvot by using Maaser Sheni? So we already brought down that what about challah? So he said that it's going to be patur from challah, according to Rabbi Meir, but it's not yours. It's not yours. Why do you have to give off challah? What do you have to do again? You're going to give a maaser and a maaser and a maaser. Like, what do you have to do? It's not yours. Why would you have to take off challah? According to Chachamim, you're obligated. Now, from there, we also have other cases. For example, matzah. Let's say I made matzah from Maaser Sheni. Can I be yotzei chovah Pesach, matzah on Pesach with matzah from Maaser Sheni? Right? Or an etrog with money of Maaser Sheni. Can I come and be yotzei chovah? Right? So all these questions, right, we were asking. So therefore, even though the name of Mesayale is that I would have thought to say that maybe it's only on challah, because by challah it's written twice at isotechem, that has to be yours, but it's written twice. By the etrog, it's only written once. It's only written once. So since by the etrog it was only written once, and by the challah it was written twice, I would have had a havamina that it's only by challah that it has to be 100% yours. And if it's not, then you don't have to bring, but that's only by challah. That's what we're coming to say. No. Okay, that's why it's a lemon mesele. It's a proof. Okay, next. By Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish asks Resh Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Ma'u sheyetzei adam yidei chovato bechala shel maaser sheni b'Yerushalayim. Can you be yotzei chovah with matzah on the first night of Pesach, right? With chalav maaser sheni in Yerushalayim, which means if a person has an isav maaser sheni in Yerushalayim and he separated the challah. Now this challah he went and he baked it into matzah. Can a kohen be yotzei chovah with this mitzvah or not? So says the Gemara, according to Rabbi there's no question about it, right? That you're not going to be yotzei chovah, right? Why? Hashta bechulin no nafik. If with maaser sheni, which is chulin, you're not going to be yotzei chovah. Bechalato mibae, with challah of it, you're going to be yotzei chovah. Meaning, according to Shitat Rabbi Yosef Galilei, even if you didn't forget about challah now, you are maaser sheni, right? And you come in Yerushalayim and you're going to make matzot, you're not going to be yotzei chovah. So if in the chulin you're not going to be yotzei chovah, kal vachomer, then if it's going to be in the challah, that means even though it's a kohen, remember, it's only a kohen is allowed to eat challah, right? So says the Gemara, so when is the question then? Kiti ba'elecha, aliba de Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva. Bechulin u'denafik, because only by chulin you are going to be yotzei chovah, di mitamu, because if right now it's going to become tameh, you could do pidyon, you could redeem it. Sheyesh lehem heter b'moshavot, it's got a heter in the moshavot. It's got a heter because it says b'chol moshavotechem. So therefore, you're going to be yitzei chova. But chala, that if it becomes tameh, there's no heter anymore, right? There's no moshavotechem. You can't redeem it. You can't do anything with it. You have to burn it. If you have chala now that becomes, you have to burn it. Why do we burn the chala nowadays? Because we don't know 100% who's a kohen, and since we don't know who's 100% of who's a kohen, we burn it. We don't give it to anybody. We burn it. We come and we do l'shem yichud and we burn. Why? Because that's it. You have to burn it. You can't give it to anyone. You can't do anything to it. So lo nafik, you're not going to be tzechova. Or dilmar maybe amnina. We're going to say hol vilu lo kara leHashem. If you didn't read the name on it on chala, v'itamen if it becomes tameh, itle eter moshe. Do you do have a heter? V'nafik ban you could be tzechova. So hashtana menafik. So to here that means if you didn't call it chala. That's why by the way when the women separate they come and they say arezu chala or arezu chala truma or whatever it is that they say, but they have to say something in order to make the name on it, and that's what it makes it chal. That's what makes it into the cheftza, into the actual object. Okay? So yikadamni, the others say, havadai lo tibay lecha. This for sure was not even the question. Tivadai amninan hoil. That for sure we're going to say that since you cannot do hoil, which means if you do not call the name, so there would have been the heter of moshavot. So therefore, so to here, right, you're going to be tzechova. When is the safek then? The safek is by chala, which is bought with kesef maaser sheni, which means, and according to Shitat Rabbanan, because they hold that it's like mamash maaser sheni, that if it becomes tameh, you could still redeem it. So says the Gemara, lo tibay lecha, right? There's no safek that for sure you're going to be tzechova, kevan de'amni yipadeh, because you could redeem it, so then it's like a regular maaser. So when is the question? Ki tibay lecha, according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, because according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, he says that if you buy with money of Maaseh Sheni, then it becomes tameh, you cannot redeem it. What do you have to do? You have to bury it. Yeah, you have to bury it. Not burn it, bury it. Titnam, as we learned in the Mishnah Maaseh Sheni, halakuach beketz Maaseh Sheni shenitma. If right now you purchase with money of Maaseh Sheni, and then it becomes tameh, yipadeh, you redeem it. Says Rabbi Yehuda Omer, yikaver, you have to burn it, you have to bury it. So mi amninan. What? Yeah, but you're not allowed to do anything with it. That's it. You have to bury it. You don't even. There's a question. Why did it say burying it on burning it? But that's another question. Yeah.
You got the money and you bought the stuff in Yerushalayim because the money of Master Sheni to eat it and it became tameh. That's the case.
You took the money into Yerushalayim and that's why you did it. You spent it in Yerushalayim. Okay.
It's tameh. You bury it in somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. So says the Gemara. Yeah. Yeah. The Tanam, as we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yud, right? If you're going to come and you're going to buy something with money of Maaseh Sheni, remember, Maaseh Sheni is usually the fruits. But for example, let's say during the year you live in Honolulu. Yeah, now you're not going to take up the fruits to Israel. So what do? You redeem it. You add the fifth, right? You take all the money with the extra fifth. You go to Jerusalem, and now when you go to Aliyah L'Regel, you're going to buy things with it. You're going to buy good meat. You're going to buy good fruits and vegetables and this and that. So now you bought things of Maaseh Sheni, right? You bought things with money of Maaseh Sheni. Now what happens is it becomes tameh. So according to the rabbis, what are you going to do? Yipadeh, redeem it. So you redeem it, right? And then that's it, right? You redeem the money. You redeem it because now if it becomes tameh, you can't use it now. So what do? You redeem it. Rabbi Yehuda says yikaver, you have to bury it. Okay, so now according to Rabbi Yehuda, that he says you have to bury it, do we say that if you didn't buy it, meaning you didn't spend the money on it yet, and you didn't say it was chala, it became tameh, so you do have a heter of moshevot, right? You do have a heter that you could do it whatever you want, and then you're going to be tzechova with matzah. So hashana minafik be. So to here you're going to be tzechova. Or Dilmar, we're going to say you only say one hoil. You don't say two hoils. Here we're going to say two hoils. What are the two hoils? One of them is the matzah of chala, Maaseh Sheni itself. You're going to be tzechova, since you're going to be tzechova that you didn't call it on chala. And the second one also, right, is that here basically that, as it say, there's two hoils, right? That's if you wouldn't have bought it with the money of Maaseh Sheni. So it's like two hoils. First of all, that I wouldn't have bought it with money of Maaseh Sheni. And even if you did, right, buy it with money of Maaseh Sheni, the chala, that if I wouldn't have called the chala yet. So two hoils, I don't say. It's like two kulas. It's like two leniencies. We don't give two leniencies. You understand? Well, that's not really exactly shu d'shu, because there it's like shu d'shu is a reason to be mekel. Here, I'm not going to go on two leniencies. Okay, this is, by the way, you should know, we learned this in Isur Ve'eter. Isur ve'eter, there's a very beautiful yisod called Trei kule be'efsem merubeh lo mekilina. 2 kulot of efsem merubeh were not lenient. Meaning, if let's say I have a machloket, and then in one place I say be'efsem merubeh with a great loss, you could be lenient. And then I have another machloket, and there also, if I say be'efsem merubeh, you could be lenient. In a great loss, you could be lenient. But what happens if I put them both together? Right? So I don't say that. Because I'm not going to say that 2 kulot of efsem merubeh I cannot come and say. Meaning I can't start adding on all the leniencies in the book. You understand? This leniency and this, yeah, but that leniency you would only do in a great loss. But this one I would also do in a great loss, but I can't put them on the book together because that means I'm doing too many leniencies at once. Because since that leniency I only do in great loss and this one I only do in great loss, I can't do them both together. Okay, so the same thing here. I don't do 2 hoils. I don't do since I wouldn't have done this and since I wouldn't. No, there are too many leniencies. There are 2 of them, too many leniencies. So Amar Rava says, Mistabra Hashem Maaser Chadu. He says it's mistaber, the Maaser Sheni is one concept. And then just like a person is going to be tzechova with Matzav Maaser Sheni, so too he's going to be tzechova with Chalat Maaser Sheni. But at the end of the day, it's the same concept. It's Maaser Sheni. Okay? Fine. Next, we're on the 2 dots. Okay? The Mizrava wanted to be lenient. And he just says it's mistaber. Okay, fine. We learned in the Mishnah, Chalot Todah Urkike Nazir, that if he did it for himself, he's not going to tzedek chuvah. But if you did it to sell in the shuk, you're going to be tzedek chuvah. So imagine you took this chalot of the Todah, Korban Todah, or the Urkike Nazir. Remember, we're talking about matzot, not the bread part. And you want to now eat it on the night of Pesach. So if you made them for your own korbanot, you're not going to be tzedek chuvah. But if you made them for, right? Sorry about that. So basically what happens is that it says here, Chalot Todah Urkike Nazir. So we said that right now, if you're going to come and you're going to make them for your own korbanot, you're not going to be tzechuvah if you use them for the night of Pesach as matzah. But if you're doing it to sell in the shuk to whoever needs a korban or things like that, you're allowed to use it on the night of Pesach. So it says the Gemara, how do we know these words that you're not going to be tzechuvah, that if you did it for your own korban? So Amar Rabba says, it says in a pasuk. Okay, Masechet Amubet, 38b. There's no leftovers. You have to eat all of it. And if there's leftovers, you have to burn it. Okay, yeah. No, but you're for sure you're allowed to do it in the shuk. The question is, we're asking, why can't you use it for your own korbanot? No, if you sell it in the shuk, you're allowed to use it for sure for yourself. There's no question. The question is, if I made it for my own korban, and afterwards I decide, you know what, I'm not going to do it for my own korban. I'm going to use it for the matzot on Pesach. Can I do that or not? So we said no. The question is, why not? So it says ushmartem et matzot. Ushmartem et matzot means matzah mishtameret l'shem matzah. Right? It's matzah which is mishtameret for matzah. Yatzah zo, this comes to exclude shen mishtameret l'shem matzah. That it's not going to be mishtameret for matzah el shum zevach, which means you have to watch over the matzot. Here it's not a matzah, it's your korban. So ever since it's written matzah mishtameret yatzah zo, it comes to exclude that it's not for the shem matzah, but rather the shem zevach, for your sacrifice. So because of that, we learn that if you're doing it for your own korban, you're not going to say chovah the matzah. There has to be ushmartem et matzot. Yeah, you have to watch over the matzot. Comes to exclude korbanot. Capish? Yeah? Okay. Rav Yosef says, Amar Kat says in a pasuk, right? Shivat yamim matzot tochelu, you're going to eat for 7 days. Matzah ne'echel l'shivat yamim, it has to be matzah which is eaten for 7 days. Yatzah zo, this comes to exclude, she'en ne'echel l'shivat yamim, that it's not going to be eaten for 7 days. Ela liyom v'layla, but rather for yom and for layla, which means, right, that means what? That it's not going to be eaten for 7 days, only for Yom V'Layla, which means only for day and night. Okay, that means basically...
Why it doesn't say Laila V'Yom?
1 second, let me just see here. Shivat yamim matzot ochelu, matzah ne'echel l'shivat yamim, yatzuz zo she'ena ne'echel l'shivat yamim l'yom v'layla. No, because remember, by korbanot, it is only Yom V'Layla. Remember, by korbanot, we always go the opposite of what we do by Masechet Pesahim, right? By korbanot, we do first day and then the night. Okay, so that's why. No, but you
mean the matzot of the korbanot?
Exactly, because here we're talking about the matzot of the korbanot. So therefore, says Rav Yosef, since it says shivat yamim matzot tochelu, that you're going to eat the matzot for 7 days, it's matzah ne'echel shivat yamim. It's matzah which is eaten for 7 days, but this is not, because this matzot are not for 7 days. It's only Yom V'Layla, only for that day and that night. So therefore, since it's only, and then afterwards it becomes notar, it becomes leftovers. Leftovers, you're not allowed to eat it. So because of that, you can't use it. So Tanya Kavate de Rabba, we have a bright in accordance to Rabba, that we learn it from Ushmatem and Tamatzot. But Tanya Kavate de Yosef, we have a bright in accordance to Rav Yosef, that is because of the Shivat Matzat Nechal and Shivat Amim. Tanya Kavate de Rabba, we have a bright like Rabba. I would have thought that you're going to be tzechuvah with chalot todah u'kikenazir. Tamulomar comes to teach you Ushmatem and Tamatzot. You're going to have to watch over the matzot. Matzah mishamen Hashem matzah yatzazo. This is going to come, right? To exclude she'er mishamen Hashem matzah el shum zevach. V'tari kavete derav Yosef yachol adam yisei chovato bechalat todah u'kikenazir. Tamulomar shivat amim matzot ochelu. 7 days you're going to eat the matzot matzah, which is eaten for 7 days. This comes to exclude if it's only going to be eaten for 1 day and 1 night. So says the Gemara, why don't we just learn it from lechem oni? Something that you're going to eat in aninut. Yatzazo, this comes to exclude. That means chalot todah u'kiken nazir are only eaten b'simcha, not b'aninut. And remember that lechem oni has to be b'aninut, because that's where we're learning it from. So says the Gemara, he holds Savala like Rav Akiva damar oni ketiv. It's written oni without the vav, so you don't learn from aninut. If you remember, we learned that according to one shita, when it says lechem oni, even though it's written with an ayin, right? Since we read it oni, so it's like aninut, which means only something which is eaten by aninut. So therefore, not eaten b'simcha. The chalot todah and kiken nazir are only eaten b'simcha. They're not eaten by aninut. So therefore, the bread of the matzah could have to be eaten only by aninut. It cannot be eaten if it's going to be, right? So here, the fact that it's going to be eaten only b'simcha, not by aninut, it's not lechem oni. Okay? So says the Gemara, but it's matzah shira anyway. Remember that the chalot todah and kiken nazir is matzah shira because they're kneaded with oil. So I'm going to Shmuel bar Yitzchak says Shmuel bar Yitzchak revi'iti umitchaleket lekama chalot. He says no, it's a revi'it of oil and it's divided by so many chalot, so it's not considered matzah shira. Meaning that the oil was divided by so many breads that it's not considered matzah shira anymore. So says the Gemara, so why don't you just learn that it's not eaten, it's only eaten in Yerushalayim. It has to be in all your dwelling places. And here it's only eaten in Jerusalem. So Amar Shakish says, so to you learn from here, you could eat it in Nov and Givon. Remember, Nov and Givon was talking about that before the Binyan Bet HaMikdash, you could eat it anywhere where there was a Mizbeach. And therefore by Nov, and afterwards in Givon, there was a Mishkan, there was an entire thing of, the entire concept. So therefore you do read Bechol Moshavot. Okay, Tanya, we learned in a right time of Bilai, says a Bilai. Shalti de Biliezer, asked Biliezer, Mount Sheyetzeh Adam bechalot todah u'kiken nazir. So yeah, so you're going to be tzechuvah matzah with chalot todah u'kiken nazir. Amali, he told me, lo shamati, I never heard it. I never heard the question. Bati v'shalti, but I came and I asked it in front of Rabbi Yoshua. Amali, and he told me, Are amru chalot todah u'kiken nazir, she'asa latzmo. If he made them for himself, you're not going to be tzechuvah. If he made them to sell in the marketplace, you are going to be tzechuvah. When I went and he said it in front of Rabbi Eliezer, he told me, Brit, it's like a shavua. That's exactly Halachah Moshe Sinai, that they exact the exact same thing. Okay? Those that say Brit, it's a question. Which means we don't need a tam. Why? Because it's Halachah Moshe Sinai. So he says, what? It's not Halachah Moshe Sinai. Therefore, what is the reasoning? The tam amai. So Amarabba says, Kol lashuk, anytime that you do it for the shuk, many times you could decide afterwards to do it and to eat it yourself. Meaning many times you're coming and you're going to make food to sell to the public. Afterwards, what happens? You see it's such a good piece. You want it for yourself, so you take it home. Right? Ask any caterer. It happens all the time. Hey, something good for myself. Well, I'm going to start selling it. Why should somebody else benefit? You understand? So that's why. So he comes, or other times he comes and he says, listen, if it gets sold, it gets sold. No, if it doesn't get sold, I'm going to take it myself. So because of that, that's why he's not worried about it. So therefore, that's why it's when it's for the shuk, many times it's still for himself. So when you did it already for yourself, and that's why you're going to be tzechuvah if you're doing it for yourself when you're doing it to sell in the shuk, in the marketplace. Says a Mishnah Lametet Amud Aleph. Okay, you guys want to continue a little bit or not?
Yes, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. It's quick.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Goes very quick. Go ahead. Okay.
Half of it.
Okay, we could do. Yeah, we'll go to the bottom of the page, I think, because it goes very, very quick. This is very quick stuff. Says Lamentet Amud Aleph 39a1. Says the Mishnah, these are the yirakot, the vegetables that you're going to be tzechuvah on the night of Pesach for maror. Yeah, maror. It says bachazeret with lettuce, tamcha, chrein. You know what chrein is? Yeah, how do you translate tamcha? Horseradish. Thank you. Charchavina, we're going to have to see what it is. Ulshin is on endivias, endives. Yeah, maror and maror. So now 1 minute. Says the Gemara, yotzin bahen, on all of these types of vegetables, you're going to be tzechuvah whether they're going to be moist, ben lachin, or ben yivshin, or dry. Avalok vushim, not if they're pickled. Once you pickle it, it's a problem. That's why, by the way, you're not supposed to take the lettuce and you're supposed to soak it in vinegar, right, with water, to sometimes kill the bugs. Because if you leave it there for enough time, it becomes pickled. And pickled, you're not tzechuvah. Velo shlukin, can be cooked. Velo mevushalin, it can be baked, it can be cooked. Shlukin is cooked a long time until it becomes like very, very soggy. Right? Mevushalin is just regular cooking. Umitzarfin lekazait, they're going to be mitzaref for a kazait. Okay? V'yotzin, meaning that all these things are going to be mitzaref, right, to be a shiur kazait. V'yotzin bekelachin, you're even going to be tzechuvah with the stalk, not only just with a leaf, even with a stalk. Uvidemai, or a demai. Remember, demai means I have a safek whether it took off maaser or not. Maaser rishon that took off the truma, or maaser sheni, an ekdesh that was already redeemed. Remember, maaser sheni that was redeemed, or ekdesh that you consecrated it and it was redeemed. Says the Gemara, chazeret is chasa. So chazeret is lettuce. By the way, you should know this is also the order of how you're supposed to do it. That's why chasa is the best to use for maror. The night of Pesach, some people come and say, no, endives. The highest level is chazeret, is chasa. Number 2, ulshin is hindivi. Hindivi is endives. Yeah, tamcha. Amar Rabba bar Chana, tamcha tashman. Its name is tamchata. Right, that's the name. So here it says it's like a type of a tzemach, like of menta, of a isbem mishpachat menta. Shalav igolo mechusim bemin se'ar lavan, ken tzemach gefen. It's like the mint or whatever it is, or horseradish. You have it there. Chrein. Yeah, you have it in the footnote. Chrein, or nikra be'anglit, horseradish. Okay? So that's that one. Amar Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Charchavina. What is charchavina? Rabbi Shimon Lakish says, atzvata de dikla. It's something which grows around the palm tree. Uvmaror is mirirta. So says the Gemara, Tani v'kapara, elu yirakot she'adam yotze lechovato bepesach, be'ulshim tamcha b'chav chazarin. Rabbi Yehuda omer af be'ulshe sadeh, even with ulshim of the field, be'ulshe gina, right? Or ulshim regilim v'chazeret. So says the Gemara, ulshe gina v'chazeret. What is ulshe gina v'chazeret? Tatan reisha. We already learned it in reisha. So he says, Haki kamar. This is what it means to say. Af ulshe sadeh, also with ulshe sadeh, also with the endives which are growing in the fields. Ki ulshe gina v'chazeret, just like the ulshe gina v'chazeret. But basically these things have like a shem levai. Shem levai means it has a name which is accompanying it. Like sometimes you have apples and then you have like, this type of an apple or that type of an apple. It means even though it's got an extra name to it, which one? Right, Granny Smith apples and the Fuji apples and the this apples and the reds, all the, 1,000 types. So the same thing. I mean, even though it's got another type of an addition to the name, you still have it. Rabbi Meir says, the different types of vegetables also are going to be kosher for maror. Does it say the names of what they are? Asvas, tura, umar, yarvar. No? The first white line. The first white line, yeah?
Asvas and tura are one and the same. They are both names of the same vegetable.
Okay. But it doesn't tell you in English what they are? No? Okay. So it says here, so Rabbi Meir Omer, Afas Vasfutura Umar Yar, Umar will say, Asas Futura is one. Umar Zehu Yarvar. That is Yarvar. Okay, but we don't know what they are. But again, there are different types of vegetables. So Tanya the Shmuel, we learned in the academy in the Bet Midrash of Shmuel, Elo Yirakot Shadam Mitzvah Chovato Bepesach B'Chazer Be'Ulshim Tam Chavachavim Chagaginim Hardufnin. So now he added in another one, Hardufnin. It says here that we also, Rashi says we don't know these ones as well. So a lot of these things, we don't even know what they are anymore. Okay? Yeah, the Talmudic times, so we don't even know what they are anymore. Rabbi Yehuda says, also Chazeret Yulin, Chazeret Galin. So also the again, types of lettuces, of Yulin and Galin. Yeah, all these other types of lettuces. Yeah? Kayotze Bahen. Yeah, Rabbi Ilai Omer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer Af Arkablim. Akablim, another type of thing, which is also kosher. It's like it means sieve also. Fine. V'chazarti el kol talmidav, and I went to, they're all his students. Bikashu lo chaver, and I wanted to ask if anybody all heard the same thing from Rabbi Eliezer. V'lo matzati, and I didn't find anyone. Shabati l'fidem Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and I didn't find Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Hodali dvarai, he admitted to me. Rabbi Yehuda says, kol sheyesh lo sraf, anything which has this like lachut, this like moisture, that when you squeeze it, something comes out like as a sraf lavan, like something like a milky type of thing that comes out like white. right? Rabbi Yochanan is going to be kosher for maror. Oregano. Okay, very good. So that's another one. Rabbi Yochanan Ruka says, "Kol shepanav mechsifin," anything which becomes white, which means that it's not mamash like dark. Okay. Says any type of a vegetable which is very bitter, that it has a sraf when you come and you squeeze it, and its face is like like greenish yellowish. Okay, fine. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan, according to everybody, we're going to learn that yerek mar yesh lo sraf that it's going to be something which is going to be bitter, that the maror has sraf, and it's like becoming like whitish. It's becoming like yellowish. Yeah, Maravuna halacha is like the acheri. Okay, fine. Ravina So Ravina found Rava that he was looking for merirta. Amalei says, what do you want? Didn't say that it's going to be so bitter. We learned chazeret, which means chazeret was first. So the first thing that you should always take is the chasa, is a lettuce. V'tana de Shmuel chazeret, right? Remember Yoshia mitzvah chazeret v'amarava. My chazeret chasa, my chasa techas rachman al-levan. Because Baruch Hu has saved us from Mitzrayim, and therefore that's why it's called chasa. Shechasa Kodesh Baruch Hu had mercy on us, and that's why it's called. That's why it's a good mitzvah for the maror. Why were the Mitzrim compared to the maror? But it says vaymareru et chayehem. Lomar lecha to tell you, ma maror zeh shechtilato rach v'sofo kashe. Just like the maror, the beginning is very very soft, but at the end it becomes hard, right? Which means that the kelach is hard, the stalk is hard, but the leaves and everything is soft. So to the Mitzrim, tchilatan rakav v'sofa kashe. The Mitzrim at the beginning they were very very soft, but at the end they became very very harsh. And so in certain people, at the beginning they're your nicest friend. All of a sudden you get into it, boom, you've had it. Kaddish, you understand? Like, it's like a kashe, right? It's very, very kashe. So he says the same thing. So he says, Amalei hadribi. What's so funny? Yeah? Hadribi. He comes and he says, he retracted. I retracted. You're right. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take marita. I'm going to take chasa. So Amalei, how do you know the maror is a minyere? Maybe I'm going to tell you it's a dug, it's a fish, which is called kufya. So he says, Dumya de matzah, it's like matzah. Ma matzah is gidule karka, has to be grown from the ground. So too maror has to be growing from the ground. That means you can't take a fish, right, and start taking the fish and saying there's a bitter fish, so this is maror. No, it has to grow from the ground. Okay? But it has to grow from the ground. Yeah, because it's obviously going to be probably a vegetable. So the Gemara says maybe it's going to be a hirdof, which is like an etzmar. It's a bitter tree. Maybe it's a bitter wood. Maybe it's not something that's growing like a fruit or vegetable. Maybe it's a piece of wood. So it says, no, dumya de matzah. Just like matzah means raim, it comes from seeds. So too, it has to come from the seeds, right? And then basically, this is a tree. This is not a seeds, right? Ve'ema hizufe. One of them just say it's hizufe, which is basically, it's like a samamavet. It kills the animals, right? It's a mamash. It's like a poison. So it says, it has to be like matzah. Just like matzah, it's bought with maser money. So to maror has to be something which you could buy with maser money. And here, it's not a food. Hizufe is not a food. So maybe I'm going to tell you that it's maror. It's only one thing, right? Which is the most bitter out of everything. So says the Gemara, merorim ketiv. It's written on matzotu merorim yochelu. Merorim is lashon rabim. So therefore, there's different types of marors. So ve'ema merorim trei. So okay, maybe there's two types. So it says dumya de matzah. It's like matzah. Just like matzah, there's many different types. Because there's chita, seorah. You remember I told you there was wheat, barley, spelt, rye, oats. So too, the maror is going to be the same thing. There's many different types. It's not just two types of maror. There's many types of maror, right? Somebody once told me, right, that he says, that I found that the wife is more bitter than death, right? So he said, I thought that I said, no, there's many types of maror. Some people have different levels of maror. You understand? Some wives are more bitter than others. In a sense, it all depends. It all depends on the level of bitterness. You understand? So some people get the most bitter, and some people, well, no, don't worry about it.
Depend on the ground.
Huh?
Depend on the ground.
It depends on the ground. Depends which type of bitterness. You understand? Sometimes some people like very bitter. Some people. Here he says depends what water you give them. Yeah, sometimes they grow very, very bitter, and sometimes a little bit less, and it all depends.
All what you have to do is cancel the credit card.
You have to cancel the credit card. Okay. That's all you have to do, and then they're not bitter anymore. Fine. So he says over here. So Amar Rav says Rav. Yirakot shamru chachamim shadam yotzei lechovato bepesach kulan nizeim baruga achat. All of them you're permitted to actually come. There's no kilaim. Meaning there's no kilaim. That means you could plant them all together, whether it's the lettuce and the this and the endai, that, and there's no problem of kilaim. There's no mixtures, prohibited mixtures. So says the Gemara, there's no kilaim. So Mati Rabba comes and he asks, Chazer v'chazer galin, ulshin v'ulshe sadeh, krishim v'keshe sadeh, kuzbar v'kuzbar sadeh, chardal v'chardal mitzi, utulat mitzi v'munza. And those things are not kilaim. Meaning if you're using the same, let's say lettuce with lettuce, or endais with endais, but even though there are a different family of endais or a different family of lettuce, but it's the same thing. It's lettuce with lettuce. But it says chazer v'chazer galin in, but chazer v'ulshin lo. But it's only because it's the same thing, and right, lettuce with lettuce. Even though one of them is this type of lettuce, the other one's another type of lettuce, the other one, that's okay. But none of it's going to be lettuce and endives. So says the Gemara, each one was taught together. Rav says, zugot zugot tani, which means that the Mishnah was telling us different types of zugot. Right, one was this type, and one was another type. So, for example, chazeret ve'ulshim, they are kilaim. So says the Gemara, my nizraim, what does it mean that they're planted together? Damarav. Nizrain kilchatan. You could plant it each one in one furrow. Yeah, which means that as long as you have one, right, as long as you have a space in between them, there's no problem. Because then, right, there's no problem of kilaim. Kilchatan, Tanina, we already learned this halacha already. Why? Aruga, 39b. Aruga shisha tvachim. When you have one row which is 6 by 6 tvachim, so you're allowed to plant inside of it 5 zironin. Arba al arba. Right, one in the middle. So we already learned this halacha. So then again, the Gemara is going to continue how to do it. So at least Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we continue. But Baruch Hashem, we did the first amud of Lamed Tet, so that way tomorrow Bezrat Hashem.